One of them was about adding the names of the parklands to the beginning of the introduction of the document. And which we did, it's highlighted in yellow. And then let's see. There's two other changes. One that reads, for all cases, right to sustainably harvest any culturally important plants or plant parts, or both, with the exception of living trees and Montpelier parks. For all cases where the Parks Director signed an annual land use permit with the chiefs of Abenaki tribes recognized by the state of Vermont. And then the other one was the right to hold events, gatherings, and other programming in Montpelier parks with advanced approval from the Parks Commission.
All right.
I just had a question where it says with the chiefs of Abenaki tribes. Does that mean, is it a collective agreement, like one agreement that covers everyone, or is it tribe by tribe?
Yeah.
So I wonder if you should say like a chief or
one of,
or one of
any of.
Yeah. Something like that. I just, because it wasn't clear to me if that meant like this is one.
Yeah.
Because I think he, say the Chief Stephen, or it was. So I feel like he did make a point that sometimes they
will collaborate.
They'll do one thing. So right. So then I wasn't sure. Maybe that was the intent. But
I feel like any one I would leave it open for either way.
Yeah.
Which is probably nice.
Yes.
So then it would read, for the Parks Director, for all cases where the Parks Director signs an annual land use permit with any one of the chiefs of Abenaki tribes recognized by the state of Vermont.
Question that's sort of a left field question, but and I don't think it was touched upon in the last, it definitely wasn't in the last meeting, but I know there was some discussion earlier. But will creating this agreement make it so that we're not able to collaborate with the ODNAP people?
I'm gonna reach out to them once we sign. They know that I reached out to both groups at the same time, and they kind of told me that if I was working with the Vermont Abenaki, they would not let Jews participate. So my plan is just to reach out to them again and say, sign this agreement. We would love for you to consider discussing a similar agreement, if that's even legally. I don't even know if it's legally a possibility since they're doing it. But my plan is to reach out and just say we'd love to stay in communication. I don't know if they will do it.
As a policy matter, I don't think there's anything preventing it, right? But you meant more as if we do, might that be the consequence?
Right. Yeah. Sorry. That's
which is down. Yeah. I
It's
think
already
you said that
I should be fail. Yeah.
Thanks for your work on this, Emily. Does Jessa's suggested edit make sense to incorporate? Can you read that?
Yeah, I'll read it. Yep, I just read it. I'll read it again. The right to sustainably harvest any culturally important plants or plant parts, or both, the exception of living trees in Montpelier parks, for all cases where the Parks Director signs an annual land use permit with any one of the chiefs of Abenaki tribe recognized by the state of Vermont.
Okay, so the change is with any one of the chiefs. Got it. Any other discussion? Are we ready for a vote on this? Somebody want to make a motion?
Motion to vote on the Abenaki official title. On the resolution for Abenaki land acknowledgement and land use rights.
I'll second. Lincoln.
Lincoln. Seconds. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain? I can't see anyone, but I think that's unanimous. Did I get that right?
Yeah.
That's just me.
All right. Thanks for shepherding that, Emily.
You.
It looks like Alec has joined us. Alec, can you hear us?
Yep, I can hear you. Yes, I can.
Okay, great. We did introductions, agenda, public comment, and a Beneke land use agreement. We bumped forward since you weren't here. So we want to rewind backwards to the staff update and review incident reports now that you're on.
Cool, thanks. Yeah, sorry I'm not there in person. I will say it's going to be a little bit of a challenge to do this in a family car trip, but I'll do my best and keep it brief. I don't have much to share in the staff update other than what's in there. I think the key points were we had 2 incident reports this month, and I think you all got both of those. And then the other question was about fat bike access for the winter. Now that somebody pushed the winter button, we have had fat bike winter access on the connector trail for the past few years, and just wanted to check in on that as we head into winter. So those are my 2 things to bring up, and happy to answer any other questions about the staff update if there are any.
Can I, Alec, I'm sorry, I know it's probably hard for you to answer questions. Why was it not open to bikes? Like, were we waiting for the far end to the north, for North Park Drive to be completed with it not being frozen?
It's just a seasonal thing. For fat bikes, I think there's another question of when to open that trail to regular bikes, to its intended multi-use, and that we could discuss that too. I think the easier check-in is just about the fat bike connection to the North Park Drive, since that's more of an existing thing.
Alec, go ahead, Jessa.
Right.
That's been the norm.
Right, sorry, I forgot that part. Okay, sorry about that.
Alec, are there usually dates associated? I remember with the fat biking where it's usually X date to X date. What have those dates been in the past?
Yeah, I think it's there are dates associated with it, but I think in the end it comes down to discretion of me working together with Mamba and making sure that things are represented well on Trail Forks.
I was out in the park today walking, and the new trail, the routing gets a little funky where the new trail was built coming down from Seven Fireplaces towards North Park Drive. And there's the new trail, and then also like still existing old trail that hasn't been closed yet. It seems like it could get confusing of like which path is supposed to allow bikes or not, or what are the plans for timeline for closing those old sections, or is that on hold until the spring or something?
Yeah, it doesn't make a ton of sense for us to close this old sections until we're fully done with the trail. So I think some light brushing in and some signage is probably the most we would do at this point. The other option is we could just sort of leave it open. The contractor put some water bars in on their way out on the old trail. But yeah, it's not intended to be fully closed because we'll need that like as an import route for finishing the trail next field season, assuming we do that. So yeah, we could work out what exactly the route is. I think you could mostly go down the new trail and then hop onto that old trail right at the end for that connectivity to stay the same.
Cool. I think it just may need like extra signage because there are, it's more confusing multiple junctions this year than in the past.
But bikes aren't gonna be allowed on it until it's fully open, is that?
Well, you're talking about fat
So-
bikes for this winter, continuing that.
Yeah, we could, that was my other question, and maybe we could just cover the fat biking first and then turn to the more multi-use, general multi-use. So that, yeah, the fat biking was just more of a check-in, just to make sure, you know, that we're still good with that this year. I'm not hearing any objections other than just, you know, working out the details of the weirdness of the new trail and the old trail still being around. Is that correct?
I think that's right. The regular like mud season, and you know, it's snowy on the ground today, but kind of muddy by the afternoon, and it might be totally muddy in a week and then cold and snowy like in another week. So I think just being able to keep on the trail, an eye on the trail conditions is pretty important, especially because a lot of that section goes through like delineated wetland or adjacent to.
Great. Yeah, we could do that.
So it is getting confusing in my mind with opening it to bikes in general, because like, are we gonna say fat bikes only, or are we just saying, and I don't know that I've seen that in the past, like a really clear signage, like it's only fat bikes once it's open, so is it easier if, I don't know if we're okay with this, but is it easier just to say it is now open to bikes if that's the direction we're going anyway and it's a multi-use trail? Or are we gonna be clear, no, actually, if it's that muddy day, you actually can't ride any bike on it, it's just fat bike? I just think it might get confusing. The messaging could get confusing for people since it's a bike, ostensibly a bike trail, or going to be open to bikes in general.
It's been seasonally open to fat bikes for the last several years and only in the winter and not open to bikes other times. And that Mamba has good signs that show, you know, deflate your tires and that type of thing. So I think that would be the status quo of doing the seasonal thing. I don't think that's unusual. They've been doing that for years.
Right, it's just there's a whole new entrance that's gonna be open now that people aren't used, and I don't know if that signage will be on it, and again, do we care? Like, if it's a
No,
clear day and no can bike, right? Because this is our unless we're just talking about part of the trail, or unless we're talking about the whole trail, which includes new trail that doesn't really have established norms on it.
I guess I thought Alec was asking about Seven Fireplaces to North Park Drive, which is not a new entrance.
Yeah, that was my first question, and then following out of that would be the next question is, when do we want to open the rest of the trail to bikes? So I think we've gotten through the first question, and now we're going into the second question. And so I guess the preamble to that like question is that the connection to Park West, you know, is functionally done. I think, you know, that I would feel comfortable making that a multi-use trail the way it is. The part going north to Seven Fireplaces is functionally finished, except for it tees into the old connector trail, like that old fall line trail, you know, which is not beginner friendly at all, and you know that it's just the same as the old trail. So that, you know, that one, it's like, okay, so we're fine heading that direction with fat bikes as we've existed, but do we want to open that to regular bikes? And that's not really an issue that we have to address now because regular biking season is closed. So given the agenda tonight, I'd say like, let's just hunt that. And then also like the Park West connector, at this point, I would, you know, we could talk about that. We could talk about it next month too, whether we want to like. I think the intention was to groom that for skiing and walking and all the stuff. I think in my mind it would make sense to have it also be open to fat biking. If that feels like an easy discussion and people want to give that a thumbs up tonight, then that sounds great to me. If people want to have a more in-depth discussion next month, I think that'd be a totally fine timeline.
I guess just my suggestion, just from purely a like people even understanding what the policy is, whatever we do should be for the whole trail. Cause I'm a little, I'm not even, I'm not even quite sure I'm following the just like where we're saying it is or isn't open to biking. So it sounds like maybe there's a halfway point where we're saying it isn't, but personally, I just think that's gonna be really hard for people to understand and sign and follow. And so if we're saying half of it should be, I would propose we just be consistent on the whole trail.
Yeah, sounds like if, especially if it's ready to
If it's
go.
right, if there's no
Yeah.
safety reason not to,
Right.
safety reason or something.
Yeah.
So then the Park West through Seven Fireplaces to North Park Drive would be open for winter fat tire biking this winter. And then we would revisit the discussion about when it makes sense to open sections or the entirety of that to not fat tires, non-winter season. Correct?
Sure. There was definitely somebody from on that trail.
Oh, sure.
It just like every time I walk there, I was like,
Sorry, I can't hear the
You
discussion
can't hear
in the
the
room.
chatter.
oh, sorry. I was just saying there was definitely somebody. There's probably just one person that was biking that trail this whole time. Like every time I walked it, I saw the same track.
Yeah, I've seen bike tires on almost every trail in Hubbard, so I think that's what happens.
We need Alex, do you need any more formal like motion or anything, or is that enough to give you guidance to move ahead with fat biking on the entire trail?
Yeah, no, I don't need a motion. I'd say, yeah, no, that sounds great. I think it's simple. I like it that way. And so we'll open it to fat biking for the winter, the whole trail, and then let's over the winter at some point, let's put on the agenda at what's the finish line for opening it to regular season bikes. Thanks.
I think we should have a motion just so that we can be clear about what's happening. Is that okay?
Yeah, that motion would be great too.
Does somebody be making a motion?
Sure, yeah, so Lincoln, I'll move to open the entire new multi-use trail from Wyndham Drive to North Park Drive to fat bikes for this winter season.
Second, Jessa.
Lincoln, did you say Lincoln Drive?
Yeah, we're gonna change Wyndham to Lincoln Drive.
The arbitrary-
Wyndham. Okay, great.
Thank you.
And thank you for giving our authority.
Non-video meeting.
All right, Lincoln moves to open the new multi-use trail from Wyndham Drive to North Park Drive to fat bikes for this winter season, just as seconds. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Bye.
Any opposed? Abstain? Passes unanimously, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Great, that just helps make it clear. Anything else, Alec, on your end that you would like to surface now, or else we have ongoing project updates later on in the agenda, and we could shift to dog temperature check.
Nothing other than if there's no other questions about the staff update, just to touch base about the incident reports and kind of follow up on.
Okay. Let's shift then to the Hubbard Park Dog Rules 1-year temperature check. Just it looks like we have several folks on the call, which is great. I think obviously a year ago, the new zones of North and
Sorry, one second. I just asked to clarify. Sorry. Did you not talk about the incident reports?
that came out kind of garbled.
I think
Oh, so I guess I should have said I was hoping.
I think Alec was asking for guidance on responding to the incident reports, Kasha.
I wonder if we could talk about that maybe later on Alex Drive when we can hear him better.
Yeah. Good old 89.
Oops. Yeah, we lost him altogether, Kasha. That makes sense. But yeah.
Yeah, let's shift that to later and let's do the dog rules temperature check and then add that in later. So the dog rules have been in place for about a year now. And as planned, those of us in the commission really wanted to just get together and hear some feedback from the community, to hear from all of you how things are going, how the park feels, what's going well, what maybe not be going well. I think it's important that you all know that we're not here tonight to make new decisions or revisit decisions or bring forward something different. The plan that we established at the outset was to, try this out for at least a couple of years. And so this is basically the halfway point of that. And so we want to open it up to listen to you. We also had a survey out in the community, which many people have taken, so that's helpful feedback as well. But I'm thinking it might make sense, unless other park commissioners, if you want to chime in at the outset. My thought was just to open it up to people on the call to just hear from you, and if you can keep your comments to just a couple minutes or so, and share your experience and tangible things that you're seeing, that would be really helpful. Anybody else from the Parks Commission want to chime in before we turn to the public?
Tasha, should we say about something about 2 minutes?
Yes, 2 minutes.
Doesn't look like anything here in the room. And we don't,
Okay.
sorry, if you can see us yet. We don't have anybody from the public here in the room with us at the moment either.
Okay, got it. Well then I'm gonna turn to those of you online and would love to hear your feedback and just discuss a little bit together as a community. How have the new zones been working out for everybody, or not? Anybody want to break the ice?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, my name is Colleen Kiran, and I think it's been going fairly well. I was curious, though, one of the reasons I came tonight was to hear the response, or if you have those, the results of the survey and how people were feeling about it in general. So I don't know if those are available or not.
There were preliminary materials shared. It's on the Park Commission website or on the agenda section of the when you go to the city agendas. That had most of the results, though I believe we got updated results with a couple more days of data. If you want to take a look at some of the sort of overall pie charts.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, I missed that.
No, it is a little bit. It's hard to find. It's under other. If you go to the agenda site, then it's under other, and it's like halfway through the packet. And that was with 137 responses as of the 12th of November. I sort of hesitate to summarize spontaneously beyond what those pie charts say. I'm thinking maybe the commissioners will discuss. I was expecting we might have a lot of feedback tonight, and we would discuss at a later time, but I don't know if there's more discussion. It's kind of, I would say, mixed feedback, pros, cons, neutral, with suggestions.
Mm-hmm.
This is Susan Ritz. Are you done, Colleen?
I am, thank you.
Okay.
Hi, Susan.
Um, I think it's been going pretty well. I like, I think what you've set up in the off leash area is really great, and there's plenty of room, and there haven't been any problems. The only problems I've had are some people are in that part with dogs on leash that get really upset about the dogs off leash. And I've had that happen 3 or 4 times. And I know about the code of conduct. I mean, I helped write that, but I don't know if people understand that there's an on leash part. And if you have a dog that can't be with dogs off leash, that's where you should stay. But I don't think there's any way to explain that to people unless you just talk to them. So, but other than that, I've found it really great. And the other thing I've heard from a lot of people is that there's people with off leash dogs in the on leash areas, and I'm sorry about that. I really wish people would follow the rules so we can keep it this way. It seems like a good solution at the moment. Oh, that's what I have to say. Thank you.
Thanks, Susan.
Hi, this is Linda Young. I can go next. I'd echo pretty much what Sue was saying. I think I also have noticed, or at least it feels to me like there are fewer people walking their dogs in the park than there were before. It may be partly because some of the newer trails are a little muddy. A lot of people have headed for the country club property. But in general, it feels like the rules are very clear. I appreciate how clear they are. And I've had a few similar experiences to Sue of people with an on-leash dog being upset that there were off-leash dogs. And, just trying to take the time to explain to them that they have a whole half of Hubbard Park and all of North Branch available to them if they're nervous about being around off-leash dogs. I'll add that I had family visiting with some people who are nervous about dogs, and I actually was glad to have an on-leash area that I could take them to. So yeah, I see both sides of it.
Thanks, Linda.
And I see the results of the survey in the materials for today's meeting. And I assume you guys are going to collate the comments as well at some point, right? Is that accurate?
Yes, and I think the timeline is just that there was about a month or so for collecting responses. So I think, and it may even be still open. I guess I'm not sure. So I think that it hasn't been totally collated yet.
Okay, thank you.
I can go if Linda, you're done.
Yep.
This is Rebecca Copans. I think maybe the only person on this call so far, but I have had a singularly really bad experience with the new rules. It's feels unfortunate that the commission went against the will of voters and decided to unilaterally change how people access the park. Now, the north side is the only place to walk without with dogs off leash. You have to drive there, so I see a lot more car traffic through my neighborhood. A lot more cars driving through the park in general. There's no hill sections anymore to be able to walk directly from our side of town into the park. You have to drive or just walk on the flat parts, which just doesn't feel as much of a, it's not the same experience. It also feels really unfortunate that the off-leash parts of the park are kind of the edge of town. It's not as nice. it's not, you know, the places where you can walk off leash aren't as nice as the places you can walk on leash. I've noticed that there's a lot fewer people in the park. I haven't seen the people that we used to walk with every day, which is really unfortunate. And I think people are just generally more aggressive in the park now, which is really also really unfortunate.
Thanks, Rebecca.
May I add something to, this is Colleen Huron again, to Rebecca's comments?
Colleen, hold on a second. Let's hear from everybody else first, and then we'll circle
Oh,
back.
sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
Hi, I joined late, so I hope I'm not repeating anything someone might have already commented on. I was actually in the park walking my dogs after work. My name is Craig Azaretti. I'll be short. I walk my dog a lot in the park, multiple times a week, sometimes multiple times a day, off leash. I was in support of changing or at least enforcing rules about off leash dogs. My dog Zuko, for the most part, is good off leash, but there are times where I recognize as an owner that might not be an environment for him, or there are people around that are concerned, and I try to control him with that. So I was sort of supportive of the off leash rules, but a couple observations I wanted to share. I also added this to the survey in the comments. Um, Echoing a lot of what some other folks were talking about, I've definitely noticed a difference in traffic patterns. Primarily, it seems like there's never any cars parked down by the frog pond, or in that kind of that middle parking lot at the bottom of the sledding hill, outside Winter. And it seems like there's an abundance of cars parked up by either the new shelter or that kind of dog field area. So much so that typically there's a lot, especially on a nice day in the summer, there's like a lot of cars kind of overflowing to the road. I do appreciate though that parking was just expanded at the new shelter, and I think that'll help alleviate some of that pressure. Um, Echoing some of the other comments folks made, that definitely have noticed a decrease in the number of dog walkers in the park. And I would say just people in general. I don't know if that's a consequence of less people walking dogs in the park, or just I'm noticing less people. However, I will say in support of the new multi-use trail, that an area of the park that unfortunately I used to go to all the time because it was desolate has certainly a lot more folks using it, and people have interacted with on the multi-use trail, that a lot of them talk about how excited they are because they've never really been in the park before, or that they're accessing a part of the park they've never used before. Um, but in general, my curiosity, I have two curiosities about the current situation with dogs in the park. One being just my everyday use has significantly changed in the way that when I do go to the park, I just don't go to the tower anymore. I prefer to have my dog off leash. It's easier to walk off leash, and um, frankly, I prefer that. So I just have not accessed that part of the park at all anymore since the rules were enforced, or the new rules came into effect. And I'm just curious if there's ever an opportunity in the future to kind of change sides of the park that have leash on leash, off leash types thing, to mix that up. Um, and then the other curiosity I have, because it's in the off leash side, is with the multi-use trail, which I'm in support of. I'm just understanding that is increasing the amount of population of folks that are using that, specifically on bikes. And I'm wondering how that might work with dogs being off leash in that area specifically, having, people, potentially children on bikes riding through there. But that's it.
Thanks, Greg.
Tasha, is it fair? Those sounded like questions, so is it fair just to say those are things that the commission will be taking into consideration as we're
Oh,
assessing?
yes. I was hearing
Work.
them as like questions for consideration, or like rhetorical questions, and not like answer now kind of questions. Sorry.
Yes, certainly thinking out loud. I
Yeah.
wouldn't, I'm not trying to dominate the meeting with those, but potentially in the future, if those
Yeah,
were
yeah.
discussed.
Anybody else?
There's a comment from Emily, Seifert that says, I really appreciate having an on-leash section of the park. I do not want to interact with unleashed dogs when I'm in the park. I don't have a dog and my child is very afraid of dogs, so we do not want to be approached by loose dogs.
Thanks, Emily. And thanks, other Emily, for noticing Emily's comments in the chat. Anybody else? Commissioners, do you want to chime in with thoughts or observations or anything of your own?
Excuse me, this is Colleen Caron.
Yes, thanks, Colleen.
Sorry,
Go ahead.
may I? Okay,
Yes,
I'm just sort of, coming back around to Rebecca and is it Greg?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just observations. I agree that there are fewer people there. I think a lot of the dog walkers don't feel welcome there anymore. And I mean, that's why I was curious to seeing, and I will look those up independently, the results. I didn't realize they were available on the website. But I do think some people have just gone elsewhere or they just don't go as much. And I know this is a whole mess and it's not something we're going to consider tonight, but I mean, it may be worth looking into farther down the road if we might want to go back to a more nuanced sort of not half and half, but days or times or, it is, I was all in favor of this, but it gets pretty boring to walk the exact same trail over and over again. And it isn't as nice as the Tower Trail and isn't as well groomed as the Tower Trail. So I would agree with some of those things and maybe in the future looking at a more nuanced, like I said, days or times or seasons even. I mean, in the winter, there's not a lot of people there, to be honest. Now it's kind of crappy out. There's not a lot of people there. And I agree with Greg that one parking lot is never full anymore. And all, the ones up by the on leash or off leash trails are always full. So it's something to consider. That's all. Thank you.
Thanks, Colleen.
This is Susan again, and yeah, following up on Linda and Greg, I'm one of the people that left the park for a long time. I've been walking there for 31 years, and I felt like the community disappeared. All of a sudden, I was all by myself. So I found them over at the country club, but the park is much better, and most people are coming back to the park now that we're at the country club, because it's just not as pretty, and it's not as there. Like you said, the hills aren't there, and so I think maybe we'll be seeing more people in the park again after a hiatus that a lot of us took. Anyway, thank you. Bye.